When you look up at the night sky, especially if you manage to get far away from all the city lights, the overwhelming impression is just, well, it's stillness.
Yeah, it feels incredibly quiet.
Exactly. You see the stars, maybe a few planets, and there's this like profound sense of cosmic silence. But the reality is if you were to swap your eyes for the right kind of ears, specifically, radio telescopes, you quickly realize the universe is actually incredibly loud.
Oh, it is a chaotic, screaming mess of radiation.
Right. Just stellar winds, background noise left over from the Big Bang. It is just constant roaring cosmic static. And today, we are taking a deep dive into a moment when that static was pierced by something else entirely, something so loud and so undeniably specific that it has basically haunted the scientific community for nearly half a century.
It really has. I mean, it remains one of the most compelling anomalies in modern astrophysics. We're looking back at a specific event from the late 70s, but we're framing it through a modern lens today. I was actually reading this fascinating breakdown recently called Echoes of an Interstellar Ghost, and it highlights how the data from that old event is currently being fed into the most advanced algorithmic systems we have today.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah, and the results of that modern analysis are, well, they're forcing us to completely rethink the mechanics of interstellar communication.
And that is exactly the ultimate cosmic detective story we're unpacking for you today.
Yeah.
We are exploring whether humanity actually, briefly intercepted a transmission from an alien civilization, or if we were simply tricked by a breathtakingly rare, naturally occurring cosmic illusion.
Right.
And to understand why modern astrophysicists with, literal supercomputers are currently obsessing over this old data, we have to go back to the exact mechanics of how this mystery was born in the first place.
The inciting incident, August 1977.
Set the scene for us.
So Ohio State University operated a radio telescope known as the Big Ear, and it picked up a signal from deep space. But the way it picked it up is it's crucial to understanding why we still care about it, because this wasn't just some random spike on a graph.
No, it had a very specific shape.
Exactly. The signal lasted for exactly 72 seconds. It started faint, steadily spiked in intensity to this massive peak, and then symmetrically faded away completely back into the background noise.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanics of the Big Ear telescope real quick, because that 72-second window is not just arbitrary.
Right, it's everything.
It's actually the smoking gun that proves this signal came from deep space and wasn't just some, local terrestrial interference like a rogue military radar or a passing satellite or something, because the Big Ear telescope didn't move.
No, it was completely fixed to the ground.
Right, it didn't track stars across the sky like an optical telescope does. It just stared straight up and basically let the Earth's rotation sweep its field of view across the cosmos.
Yeah, the geometry of the telescope combined with the rotation of the Earth meant that any fixed point in the deep sky, like a star or a distant planet, would take exactly 72 seconds to pass from one edge of the Big Ear's listening beam to the other edge.
Like a spotlight sweeping over you.
Exactly like that. So as the object enters the edge of the beam, the signal is weak. Then, as it hits the dead center of the telescope's focus, which is at the 36-second mark, it reaches maximum intensity. And then, for the next 36 seconds, it just tapers off as the Earth keeps rotating and the object slips out of the beam.
So when a signal perfectly mimics that rising and falling bell curve and it lasts for exactly 72 seconds, beyond a shadow of a doubt it is coming from the stars. It is fixed out there in the celestial sphere.
Yes.
And the sheer power of this transmission, it really cannot be overstated. It was 30 times stronger than the background space noise.
Which is mind-blowing. In radio astronomy, you are constantly filtering out the low hum of the cosmos. So a signal 30 times stronger than the baseline isn't just an anomaly, it's practically deafening.
It's like you're driving on a lonely highway with only static on the radio, and then suddenly you get this blaring, crystal-clear station for just over a minute, and then boom, you're plunged right back into dead static.
That's a perfect analogy. And you have to imagine astronomer Jerry Eman reviewing the data. This is 1977, so he's looking at literal paper printout.
Oh yeah, stacks of paper.
Right. Featuring these long columns of alphanumeric characters that represent signal intensity, and he spots this massive symmetrical spike. It's the sequence 6EQUJ5 for those familiar with the raw data. And he is so stunned by the sheer power and perfection of it that he takes a red pen, circles the sequence, and writes a single word in the margin.
Wow.
Just wow.
Just wow, with an exclamation point. I
Yeah.
love that so much. Because in a field dominated by, complex mathematics and sigma values and astrophysics, the only appropriate response to that level of anomaly was just,
Wow. Yeah, it left him speechless.
And that red ink on that printout gave it the name it still holds today, the WOW signal.
But here's the thing. The volume of the wow signal is really only half the equation. What's fascinating here is the primary reason this event sparked decades of intense debate, and the reason it became this foundational pillar in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is exactly where, on the radio dial, it was found.
Right, the channel.
The frequency was precise. It was 1420 megahertz.
1420 megahertz. Okay, let's dig into the physics of why that specific number is so critical. Because this isn't just some arbitrary radio channel. It is the universal frequency of neutral hydrogen.
Exactly.
And hydrogen is the most abundant element in the entire universe. So when the electron in a neutral hydrogen atom flips its spin direction, it emits a photon at a very specific wavelength. It's 21 centimeters, which translates to a frequency of roughly 1420.4 megahertz.
And crucially, that specific frequency penetrates the thick clouds of interstellar dust and gas that normally obscure optical light.
It cuts through the fog.
It cuts right through it. If you want to send a signal across the galaxy and you want it to survive that massive journey without being absorbed or scattered by cosmic debris, you have to pick a frequency that cuts through the fog. The 1420 megahertz line sits in what astronomers call the water hole.
The water hole, right.
Yeah, it's this remarkably quiet band in the radio spectrum where the background noise of the universe basically drops to its absolute lowest.
It's essentially the logical meeting place on the cosmic radio dial. Like the thinking goes, any intelligent species capable of building a radio telescope knows about hydrogen, right? They know about the 21 centimeter line, and they definitely know it's the quietest channel available.
Exactly. It is the ultimate universal constant.
Yeah.
You don't need to share a language or culture or even a biology with the aliens. You just need to share the same laws of physics.
Right.
That's why astrophysicists had long predicted, even prior to 1977, that if an interstellar civilization wanted to flag us down, they would broadcast an incredibly loud focus beam at exactly 1420 megahertz.
Okay, but wait, I have to push back here for a second. Isn't there a massive confirmation bias problem happening here?
How do you mean?
Well, think about it critically. If we spend years staring at Channel 3, actively predicting that aliens are going to use Channel 3, and basically designating it as the universal walkie-talkie channel, of course we're going to scream aliens. The second Channel 3 crackles, right?
Yeah.
Aren't we practically primed to assume that any anomaly on that specific band is artificial?
That is a phenomenal point. And honestly, it's a debate that has raged within the astronomical community for decades now. When expectation meets anomaly, the human brain desperately wants to connect the dots.
We want to find the pattern.
Exactly. So the fact that the signal arrived on the exact electromagnetic band predicted for interstellar contact is either the absolute most compelling piece of evidence for its artificial origin, or it is just a staggering coincidence that played perfectly into our own scientific biases.
It really is the perfect storm of theoretical prediction and physical reality colliding. And naturally, when you get a 72-second deafening blast on the exact channel you predicted an intelligence would use, you don't just file the paper away in a cabinet. You go looking for more.
Oh, absolutely. Which leads us to the most frustrating chapter of this whole story. Astronomers knew exactly where the Big Ear telescope was pointing when the signal was received.
Right, they had the coordinates.
Yes, it was aimed toward a specific patch of sky in the Sagittarius constellation. So, following the discovery, teams of astronomers mobilized for years and eventually decades. They pointed vastly more powerful, sophisticated arrays right back at that apparent origin point in Sagittarius.
Just waiting.
Just listening on that exact 1420 megahertz frequency, waiting for the signal to repeat.
So what does this all mean? Because the result was absolute silence.
Total silence.
The signal never repeated. Not once.
Nothing but the standard cosmic static. The author of Echoes of an Interstellar Ghost actually describes the WOW signal as being trapped as an isolated ghost in the scientific records. Because, as you know, science fundamentally relies on repeatability.
Right, it's maddening. Think about how frustrating this is from just a basic diagnostic perspective. If you run an experiment and get a result, anyone else needs to be able to run the same experiment and get the same result to verify it.
Exactly.
This situation is essentially a cosmic tech glitch. It's like when your car makes this horrific metal-on-metal grinding noise, right? So you take it to the mechanic, you're stressed out, and the second you pull into the garage, it purrs like a kitten.
Oh, the worst. Yes.
It is impossible to troubleshoot a one-time transient event. If it doesn't happen while the mechanic is looking at it, it doesn't exist.
That is exactly it. You can't diagnose a phenomenon you can't continuously observe. And from a logical standpoint, if this really was a deliberate message from an alien intelligence, the lack of repetition makes very little sense.
Yeah, why would they stop?
Right. If you are expending the colossal amount of energy required to get someone's attention across the void of space, you don't just flash your beacon once and then turn it off forever.
You'd want to make sure they saw it.
You'd transmit a continuous loop. So the fact that the sky went entirely silent caused the mystery to sit essentially dormant. It became a ghost story for astronomers, just a red circle on a faded printout until modern computational power finally caught up to the 1977 data.
But Jerry Eamon's red pen was basically the peak of analytical tech back then. So here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when we run that same 1977 archival data through modern algorithmic meat grinders? Because that's what revitalizes this whole debate today, right? We aren't just looking up at Sagittarius anymore. We're looking backward at the map.
We are. Today's modern astrophysics teams are utilizing supercomputers and advanced signal processing algorithms to completely reevaluate the raw frequency patterns recorded during those 72 seconds.
What are they looking for?
They aren't just looking at the intensity spike anymore. They are looking for hidden structures, dispersion measures, and modulation within the carrier wave itself. They can interrogate the data with a level of granularity that was literally impossible in the 1970s.
And when you subject decades-old data to modern algorithms, the scientific community tends to splinter into opposing camps.
Always.
Yeah, on one side of the modern reexamination, you have researchers proposing a very specific, purely natural hypothesis. They suggest, wow, signal was a breathtakingly rare cosmic event, specifically a Magnetar beam striking a cold cloud of hydrogen gas.
Yeah, let's break down the physics of that theory because it's wild. A magnetar is a type of neutron star with a magnetic field billions of times stronger than anything we can generate on Earth.
Billions.
Billions. They are incredibly volatile, and they're prone to what we call starquakes, which shoot out massive beams of intense radiation. So the natural hypothesis suggests that a magnetar flared, and its high-energy beam just happened to sweep through a massive interstellar cloud of neutral hydrogen.
And when that intense energy hits the hydrogen atoms, it excites them.
Exactly. It causes a phenomenon similar to a natural maser, which is basically a microwave laser. The hydrogen atoms absorb all that energy and then release it all at once, emitting a massive concentrated blast of radio waves right at that 1420 megahertz frequency.
Okay, to visualize just how wild the mechanics of that coincidence would have to be, imagine a magnetar as a distant, incredibly bright lighthouse out in the ocean, right? But the light it emits is white, and the hydrogen cloud is like a specific piece of red glass floating out there in the water.
Okay.
That lighthouse is just randomly sweeping its beam out into the dark, and purely by chance, the beam passes perfectly through that one floating piece of red glass. The glass filters the energy, and that resulting red beam happens to point directly at the exact lens of our telescope here on Earth for exactly 72 seconds before the Earth's rotation carries us out of the beam's path.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize the sheer scale of the alignment required. It's just astronomically unlikely.
Right.
The natural hypothesis demands a staggering orchestration of cosmic bodies, energy emissions, and perfect timing. And that immense mathematical improbability is exactly what fuels the opposing camp in the modern debate.
Because other researchers look at the algorithmic analysis of the 1977 data and argue forcefully against the Magnetar theory. They focus on the signal's narrowband structure.
This is a really crucial distinction. A natural cosmic event, even something as intense as a supernova or a magnetar flare, tends to be broadband.
Meaning it's spread out.
Yeah, it scatters its energy across a wide range of frequencies, creating a really messy signature on the radio dial. But the signal was incredibly tight. All of its energy was densely packed into a bandwidth of less than 10 kilohertz.
It's like the difference between a floodlight and a laser pointer. A floodlight just scatters energy everywhere, but a laser pointer requires technology to focus all that energy into a single, concentrated point.
Precisely. And so these researchers argue that the extreme narrowband structure of the signal still mimics an artificially engineered transmission much better than any known natural maser emission. It just doesn't look like an accidental splash of cosmic energy. It looks deliberate. It looks designed.
So you have algorithms warring over the physical structure of the carrier wave. Was it a messy natural accident that just perfectly aligned? Or was it a highly engineered artificial beam?
Right.
But to truly settle the debate between a cosmic accident and an alien intelligence,
Yeah.
looking at the shape of the signal isn't really enough.
Mm.
Modern science realized they had to map exactly where in the universe this signal originated.
Knowing the exact stellar neighborhood is everything, and this is where the newest breakthroughs are fundamentally shifting the conversation today. We now have tools like the European Space Agency's Gaia satellite, which has basically mapped the precise positions and movements of over 1 billion stars in our galaxy.
1 billion stars.
Yeah. And by cross-referencing the 1977 Sagittarius coordinates with the modern 3D map from Gaia, astronomers have finally pinpointed the most likely origin point of the WOW signal.
And what did the Gaia map reveal?
It traced the coordinates back to a region near a G-type main sequence star located over 1,800 light-years away.
A G-type main sequence star,
Hmm.
meaning a star nearly identical in mass, temperature, and luminosity to our own sun.
Yes.
It is a solar system that could, theoretically, host an Earth-like exoplanet.
The implications of tracing the signal to a sun-like star are staggering. Echoes of an Interstellar Ghost actually frames this discovery by presenting two grand possibilities. If we assume the artificial hypothesis that this signal originated from a technological civilization orbiting a sun-like star 1,800 light-years away, we have to confront what it actually means to intercept a transmission of that magnitude.
We really need to pause and process the physics of that distance. I mean, 1,800 light-years away means that the radio waves traveling at the absolute speed limit of the universe, the speed of light, took 1,800 years just to reach the Big Ear telescope.
That's right.
Whatever created that signal did so nearly 2 millennia before Jerry Amon ever even sat down with his red pen.
When you look into deep space, you are always looking into deep time.
If it was an alien intelligence, they blasted that signal into the void around the time the Roman Empire was at its peak here on Earth. That is just wow. And let's talk about the inverse square law, too.
Okay. Yeah.
Because as a radio signal travels through space, it spreads out and loses intensity exponentially. To generate a transmission powerful enough to travel 1,800 light-years, plunge through interstellar dust, and still arrive at Earth 30 times louder than the background noise of the entire galaxy. I mean, the sheer energy output required is incomprehensible.
We are talking about energy levels that require capturing the output of an entire star. It points to what astrophysicists classify as a Kardashev Type II civilization, a vastly superior technology.
Which naturally leads to the second grand possibility raised by the research. If an intelligence possesses that level of power, maybe they aren't sending a targeted message to us specifically. Maybe we were just momentarily illuminated by an interstellar lighthouse beam sweeping past Earth.
And this realization forces a complete paradigm shift in how we think about cosmic communication. I mean, for decades, we stared at Sagittarius, utterly baffled by the silence, asking, why didn't they repeat the message? But if it was an interstellar lighthouse beam, the lack of a repeated signal isn't a failure of communication at all. It is a feature of the design.
It takes us right back to the core tension of this entire deep dive. We have this 72-second blast of 1420 megahertz energy from Sagittarius, a signal perfectly trapped between being a deliberate, engineered laser pointer from a Type II civilization and a breathtakingly rare cosmic illusion of a magnetar and a hydrogen cloud.
Yeah, and I want to leave you with a final thought that builds on that lighthouse beam concept. We have this very anthropocentric assumption that if we ever make contact with an alien intelligence, it will be a conversation.
Right, like picking up the phone.
Exactly. We expect a back-and-forth dialogue. But if the, signal truly was an interstellar lighthouse, it fundamentally shifts our view of what alien contact actually looks like. Think about the mechanical function of a lighthouse on Earth. A lighthouse doesn't shine its beam out into a dark ocean to have a conversation with a specific ship.
No.
It doesn't wait for the ship to flash its lights back. It simply sweeps blindly in a massive circle.
Its only purpose is to signal anyone who happens to be out there in the dark. It just says, I am here.
Exactly. When you factor in the realities of the universe, the vast distances of thousands of light years, the millennia-long time delays for a single response, perhaps interstellar communication was never meant to be a two-way dialogue.
It's just too far.
Maybe advanced civilizations don't build chat rooms, they build beacons. Perhaps the signal was never an invitation to talk. It was simply a fleeting one-way proof of existence sweeping across the cosmic void, asking absolutely nothing in return.
Just a silent monument of energy sweeping across the galaxy. That is an incredibly profound way to look at it. Was it an ancient intelligence announcing its presence to the dark? Or was it the greatest natural cosmic illusion ever recorded? That really remains the mystery of the route. Wow. Signal caught between 1977 paper printouts and modern algorithmic supercomputers. We'd love for you to ponder that, to weigh the physics and the math. and think about whether you believe it was an intelligence or an illusion. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep looking up, keep asking questions, and most importantly, stay curious.